Hi, and welcome to Goddammit Hasbro. First today, I'm going to be talking about Anakin Skywalker. This is, of course, Anakin Skywalker from the second of the prequel films, The Attack of the Clones, the weakest of the three, although that's not really saying a lot, considering the strongest of the three is Revenge of the Sith. And, well, that has plenty of its own issues. Anyway, I chose this figure because it's such a terrible, terrible, awful, dreadful figure all around. Now, the first thing you might notice is that it's in some sort of dynamic action pose. They were doing this a lot back when Attack of the Clones came out, as well as the toy line that accompanied it. Um, believe it or not, this is not the most dynamic action posed action figure there is in the line. That would probably go to somebody more along the lines of Ayla Sakura, or possibly oh, what's the one? She was green, she had the thing on her chin, played by Maria Yo-Yo, and I can't remember her name. Um, not Barris Offee, but her master. Whatever. Anyway, it'll Illuminara Unduli. There we go. But anyway, this is Anakin Skywalker as portrayed by Hayden Christensen. He doesn't actually hold his lightsaber very well. What you might notice, though, is that he does have a little magnet on his hand that, if this were metal, would have pulled it to it. I'm actually using a plastic one, though. I'm not really sure why. Probably because I like the sculpt better. But anyway, this is actually the only prequel figure that I have in my display. I sort of purged all the prequel stuff after I sort of broke up with it. But that's another story altogether. The thing about this figure that's most absurd, aside from the inability to pose the legs in any really worthwhile capacity, is that it's got this button on the back, which is made, well, supposed to make him kick. Now, let's take a look at what happens when you push the button. Yes, that is all that happens. Want to see it again? Yeah. And that's the action feature. This is why Hasbro charges so much for their toys, because they have to have a spring-loaded action feature that accomplishes nothing. On the whole, this figure sucks. It's got inconsistent in articulation. If you can look under the skirt here, you'll see that the legs pivot this way, which is basically useless, and he only has one articulated knee, which is also pretty useless. He came with a wealth of accessories. Well, I say a wealth, I mean a lightsaber and that rack that his mom was tied up to in that pivotal scene in Attack of the Clones, only it didn't come with his mother. It came with a gun that was supposed to be leaning up against the rack, and I think a gaffy stick. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, excuse me. On the whole, this is a crap figure, but it's worth having just because of its ridiculous action feature. Let's watch it again. Aren't you glad? Up next, we have, from the Van Helsing line from Jakks Pacific, Dracula. I bought this also because of its ridiculous action feature. If you'll notice a theme, actually, in today's show, it is ridiculous action features. This figure, too, has a removable cape, and it also has a button on the back. This one does not make him kick or anything like that. It makes him bite. And not very well. Can you tell? Now, this figure came out several years ago, and it kind of shows. If you'll notice, the jaw has started to wear and crack. It's made of a cheap, flimsy rubber, which is probably why it was so cheap in the first place. But, no, that's really the only reason I bought this figure. In terms of articulation, it's not terrible. It's kind of funky, though. I mean, look how he holds his arms. It's like he's got ultra-muscular armpits or something. Like he's taken steroids, and that's only the only muscle he's worked out. But he's got the shoulder joints, he's got bending elbows and swivel wrists, and knees and ankles as well, which is better than I anticipated. But really, the best thing about this figure is the biting action, and I mean that unironically, because really, it's a crap figure as well. But I keep it on my shelf of honor because it has the most ridiculous and, frankly, one of the more unique action features I've seen on a figure in a while. I did a little research on this figure, actually, before I started recording, and I found it online for sale for, well, it was on sale, actually, marked down from $49.99 to $29.99. So, if for some reason you have 30 bucks to blow, and you want a Dracula figure, well, I don't know what to tell you. This is probably not your wisest investment. If it was 5 bucks, absolutely. Finally, while we're on the topic of story or horror movies and things like that, our final figure is from the Mummies Alive line from 1997, I want to say, 97 or 98. Now, this figure has the classic, no, this doesn't even have 5 points. This has the classic uh, Kenner Star Wars articulation of arms and legs, shoulders and hips, and that's it. The head doesn't turn, but the reason for that is because you press the arm in, and it does this. Blah. Bleh. 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 Yes, so this figure, he's got the spring-loaded thing, which makes his torso turn into a giant mouth, and his eyes pop out. That alone is worth the cost of this figure, which, as I recall, was also like 3 bucks. I think I picked it up at KB Toy back when there was a KB Toy. I originally got this for parts because I was into customizing really big back then, and I bought, this was the second of 2 Mummies Alive figures I actually bought for parts. The first one turned into a custom figure that is one of my, actually one of my better ones, was Frank, Action Frank, who was a cat I had. This one isn't very conducive to customizing because of its ridiculous action feature. But, yes, this is, I think his name is Jackal, or something like that. Jackal, whatever. I know nothing about Mummies Alive, but I love this figure just because it's so utterly and completely ridiculous. And that concludes our latest edition of Goddammit Hasbro. So I will see you next time on Goddammit Hasbro.